this week we actually got a piece of truth came out. What was that piece of truth? Well, there's one truth, an eternal truth is that, like Rabbi Wine says, the Goyim don't need any teretz to want to do something to us, and they always look for teretz. So I don't know why honest, intelligent, from Jews keep making that mistake. Oy Gewalt, what do we do if we do X, Y, and Z? That's bad because it'll provoke Gentiles to want to do terrible things to us. We've been talking about this idea how wrong it is just from a logical standpoint and also from a theological standpoint. It's explicitly against what Chazal told us. It's against the promise of the Torah. It is the idea of the Meraglim, almost. The Meraglim were saying basically, we can't do that. They're stronger than us. They're going to kill us. Torah, yeah, Torah. But real life, we're not doing this whole Go Teretz Yisrael thing and Mamleches Kohanim and Goy Kadosh in our own land. That ain't happening, and that's a problem because people haven't woken up from that yet. Until Am Yisrael actually wakes up, we're going to continue having this problem. So, what was the lie this week? This week they said another thing. World War III was supposed to start again. Why? It wasn't the American embassy. It wasn't because they start settlements. It's because a Jew went to Har HaBayis. And not just any Jew, Ben Gvir, who's been going to Har HaBayis for God knows how long. Okay, that's just gonna be the thing. Why? Because politics, the bad guys need something to complain about. I even had a concerned friend call from America. You have racists in your government now, and this is a guy. I hate to say it, was a proud supporter of the current American administration, which is objectively racist, openly racist. Everything they do is a racist policy, but it's racist against people who are of pallor and not people of color. So suddenly it's okay. And everything they do is judged based on people's physical attributes, basically. So this guy is giving his hand and celebrating racism in his own country. But we have a Jew who fights for Jews, who's represented Jews in court, the types of Jews who didn't get, a fair share, a fair hearing, oftentimes in the judicial system. And he actually went to Har HaBayis. So this is the most racist thing a person can do. Tell you, people just don't get it. So the whole idea was put to lie again this week because World War III didn't start. The people want to make a problem, but nothing's going to happen. Nothing did happen. But it tells us something even more important, and that is what Raphael Morris said this week. Who's Raphael Morris? Raphael Morris is an activist. He's a little bit more of the extreme right side of Temple Mount activists. Raphael Morris comes from a long line of Askanim. I forget his grandfather's name. What was his name? Something that ends in it's not Kalmanowitz, not Blumenkrantz, some name like that. And it's on the tip of my tongue because I was involved in the production of the book, the biography of this amazing gentleman. He's the one who he's the one who worked really hard to get oats, proper oats that allergic people could use to make their matzahs. Like the rabbi says, based on other people's research, the reason oats are so good for people with problems digesting gluten is because real oats don't have gluten because they are not a true grain. Oats are not one of the 5 species of grain with which you can make matzah. But putting that aside, Rashi identifies one of the 5 grains with oats. So technically speaking, the psak is you could use that for matzah. So he's the one who basically put in all the ishtadlus and all his money to try to find proper oats that people can use to make matzahs, and it's all thanks to him. And I can't believe I've forgotten his name. He's also the one who negotiated with Arab terrorists back in the 70s and bribed them to let all sorts of Jewish hostages free, and among other things. And he had his amazing life. And his son-in-law is David Morris, who's an Askun in Beit Shemesh, who founded a few organizations in a tzedakah. If you know him, he's a good guy. So Raphael is their son. And Raphael Morris is one of the major figures every year pushing for Korban Pesach. And in years past, Ben Gvir has represented him in court. Why? This is ridiculous. Not only does the government have the governments and courts blocked Korban Pesach every year for no good reason, they've even had Raphael and his cohorts arrested or put under house arrest preemptively for the crime of wanting to bring Korban Pesach, or even worse, get this, possessing goats. Okay? Terrible crime. So Ben Gvir and others from Klonenu, etc., have fought for their rights, that they should not be arrested just for desiring to be free Jews in the land of Israel. it is certainly unjust that they would be put under house arrest for the terrible crime of walking around with goats. You know, because I hate to say this, the bad guys are threatening them with violence. If you have a law-abiding citizen who's just trying to appeal for more rights, and he's threatened by other parties, a proper system of governments would stop the people who are threatening violence, not punish the person who's being threatened. So Ben Gvir has been involved in this in years past, and now seemingly it's part of his decision to allow Korban Pesach to go through. And what does this show us? This shows us that really all these years it was just a political, I guess, game that Korban Pesach hasn't happened. Because if, for example, Netanyahu, who's now back in power, wanted it to happen, he would make it happen. The Israeli regime can make it happen. It has the power. It just, why doesn't it? And you could imagine that ultimately when he has to meet his maker and explain why it is he didn't allow the temple service to be restarted all those years, he'd say, well, look, money. Probably there was some other factor that blinds him. That's how politicians work and most other people. It's like the Rambam would say, when a person sins, ask him, why do you do it? He's like, look, she was very good looking. You would have done the same thing. That's the way it is with sins, especially politicians. There's probably something that made it irresistible. Okay, a lot of money. You don't understand. If we had allowed this, we would have lost some deal of some sort, or something. We were threatened with something that to you and me would seem like the most foolish of reasons, but to them seems perfectly legitimate. That's what it always is, and that's what's going on with this Ben Gvir thing now. When I heard Raphael speaking, I was thinking, Korban Pesach would involve many goats and many lambs, right? For everybody, for all the groups who are doing it. The Korban Tamid is but one lamb in the morning and one lamb in the afternoon. We should get started with that first. Not only that, the halacha actually requires it of us. I am not so certain that the most excited among us who really want to go forward with this whole Temple Mount project, they want the korbanos to start tomorrow. Good, I bless them. But I don't think they've straightened out all halachic issues. We've seen a number of issues, even with the construction of the temple. Fine, so the temple will take time to construct, but beginning the service, how many questions have we seen that are critical, that are required to be worked out before we can start bringing korbanos? The most basic one, Big Day Kahuna. Have you decided what the Argaman is yet? Are they posking against the Rambam? Remember, we saw that there's different ways. What is that? The Torahs, the tzitz. Do you have a Kohen Gadol who's going to be fully dressed, standing there wearing the tzitz because you're going to be doing this Batuma? Are you ready for that? Have they worked these things out? I don't know if they have. So we can't just jump right into this. And one of the halachas is that you cannot consecrate the altar for the sacrifice unless it's with the Korban Tamid. You have to start with the Korban Tamid. So we can't just jump into Korban Pesach the afternoon of the 14th of Nisan without getting used to Tamid. But more importantly, and this is why I think even though we're in the middle of Bias Mikdash, we have to, I guess, change gears now. We're going to have to learn, jump straight to Sefer Torah. Why? Because in order to be doing these things, we actually have to know what we're doing. It's easy for us to go to mikvah the day before or the day of ascending the Temple Mount. But once you're dealing with Kudshim, you have to know that your clothing also needs to be purified. Certain chairs cannot be sat on once you're purified. Otherwise, you're going to become a sheni or shlishi, whatever it is. You won't be able to touch Kudshim. Told someone, if you really want to eat Korban Pesach, you go to mikvah. Don't sit on any permanent beds. Don't sit on any chairs. You don't know who sat on those chairs and contaminated it. The likelihood of a zav, quite minimal, or a mitzvah or whatever it is. But what about a zava or a nida? They contaminate furniture. So you have a problem. Wooden furniture, metal furniture, these chairs, well, this chair maybe not, maybe it's plastic. Okay, you have to see. But foam rubber mattress is not makabel tuma, because foam rubber is probably not makabel tuma. It's a synthetic material. But other furniture made out of wood or metal is susceptible to tuma and carries these forms of tumas, mishkav and moshav, etc. And they transmit tuma back to the person who sat on them. So being a sheni or a shlishi, whatever it is, or just a rishon, doesn't prevent you from going on the Temple Mount, but prevents you from eating korbanos. So you have to watch out. So sit on a park bench, sit on the floor. You're not going to be makabel tuma, but you have to watch out. We have to learn all of these halachas because they are going to become relevant. We are sitting on we're sitting at the edge of something that is amazingly historical. If there were a proper Israeli government that would just stand up and allow the temple service to begin, that there would be no more impediments. Do you realize this? And that's why I said I was surprised talking to people. They don't realize how close we are to this happening. And the second it does start, God willing, it should be this year. We said the Shana Haba Yerushalayim next year. This year is upon us. It could start tomorrow. We're ready for this. We just have to straighten out a few things and get going. And once we do get going, Am Yisrael will be on board with that. But we have to learn this.
We would like to encourage our viewers to share these videos with friends and send in your responses. If you would like to obtain Birkon Nusach Eretz Yisrael or invite the rabbi for a speaking engagement, please email us at office@machonshilo.org.